When my daughter Jessica told me I wasn't good enough for her in-laws' barbecue, I smiled, got in my truck, and made one phone call. By the end of the month, their mortgage payment bounced. And that was just the beginning of what happened when I finally said enough. My name is Bob Martinez, I'm 52, and for the past 6 years I've been paying $3,100 every month so my daughter and her husband could live in a house they couldn't afford. You won't believe what I did when they finally pushed me too far. Dad, maybe you should skip Saturday's barbecue, Jessica said, not looking me in the eye. We were standing in my kitchen, and she'd driven over after her shift at the hospital, still wearing her scrubs. She's a good nurse, always has been, but lately she'd been acting like nursing wasn't good enough for her new social circle. What do you mean, skip it? It's Tommy's 6th birthday party. Tommy's my grandson, the kid who used to run to me yelling, "Abuelo," whenever I picked him up from kindergarten. Lately, Jessica had been correcting him to say Grandpa Bob instead, said it was more appropriate. The thing is, Jessica fidgeted with her keys. Brad's parents are flying in from Boston. They're very traditional people. They expect a certain kind of atmosphere for family gatherings. I set down my coffee mug. The kitchen went quiet except for the hum of my old refrigerator. Traditional how? Well, they're not used to... She waved her hand around my kitchen, taking in the calendar with Spanish phrases, the photos of me and Maria at our wedding, the small Mexican flag magnet I'd had for years. They're not comfortable with all the cultural stuff, and frankly, Dad, they're highly educated people. Harvard Law, Columbia Literature. They expect conversations about current events, books, intellectual topics. The words hit me like electricity through wet hands. 6 years. 6 years of sending $3,100 every month to help them make their mortgage payment. 6 years of covering their property taxes when Brad's real estate commissions fell short. 6 years of listening to Jessica make excuses for her difficult father whenever the Thompson family visited. So what you're saying is, I'm not educated enough for your husband's parents. That's not what I'm saying. But her voice betrayed her. It's just that you talk about electrical work and your friends from the union and they're not really relevant to the kind of people Brad's family associates with. Work stories. Like the 30 years I spent building Martinez Electrical Services from nothing after my back injury ended my Navy career. Like the 15 employees whose families I'd supported over the years. Like the fact that I'd taught myself enough about business and real estate to help them qualify for their $480,000 house in North Scottsdale. Jessica, who do you think made it possible for you to buy that house? She shifted uncomfortably. We appreciate everything you've done, Dad, but that was different. That was family, helping family. This is about social situations and making sure everyone feels comfortable. Social situations. I repeated the words slowly. And what exactly would I contribute to the conversation that would make your in-laws so uncomfortable? It's not about making them uncomfortable. It's about fit. Brad's father graduated summa cum laude from Harvard Law School. His mother speaks 4 languages and they summer in Martha's Vineyard. What would you talk about with people like that? Stories about rewiring office buildings? The kitchen felt smaller suddenly. On the counter sat the manila folder where I kept my financial records. 6 years of bank statements showing the same automatic transfer every month. $3,100 on the 15th, disappearing from my checking account into theirs. I'd stopped taking my crew out for Friday beers to make those payments. I'd been driving the same truck for 8 years because every spare dollar went to their lifestyle. Jessica, your mother cleaned houses to put herself through nursing school. I worked construction jobs to pay for your college. We never missed a payment on anything, never asked anyone for help. And now you're telling me I'm not suitable company for my own grandson's birthday party? Dad, please don't make this harder than it has to be. I looked at my daughter, really looked at her. When had she become this person? When had she started seeing her own family as something embarrassing? Where am I supposed to go Saturday afternoon while my grandson celebrates turning 6 without his abuelo? Maybe you could visit Aunt Rosa. Or we could do something the following weekend. Just us. Just us. Like the people whose mortgage I'd been paying for 6 years weren't family, but Brad's parents were. I stood up slowly, my knees protesting after a long day installing new panels at a medical office. Jessica, I need you to listen to me very carefully. I want you to think hard about what you just asked me to do." She finally met my eyes. "Dad, I know how this sounds, but you know how this sounds because you know it's wrong." I walked to my desk and pulled out that manila folder. Bank statements, mortgage documentation, 6 years of proof. "You know what I've sacrificed so you and Brad could live like your neighbors. You know what your mother would think about you asking me to hide who I am, so your in-laws don't have to acknowledge where you come from." Jessica's face crumpled. "Dad, wait." But I was already walking toward the front door. "Tell Brad's parents I said hello. Tell them they're welcome to enjoy the barbecue in the backyard I helped you landscape, eating food prepared in the kitchen I paid to renovate." I opened the door and held it for her. "And Jessica, tell Tommy his abuelo loves him, even if I'm apparently not educated enough to say it to his face this weekend." She stood there for a moment, keys in her hand, looking like she wanted to say something. But what was there to say? She'd made her choice clear. After she left, I sat in my recliner looking at those bank statements. 6 years of 3D100 monthly payments, down payment assistance, $85,000, kitchen renovation, when Jessica decided the original wasn't sophisticated enough, $23,000, new roof when Brad's parents visited last Christmas, $18,000, air conditioning upgrade, $12,000, various emergency repairs and property taxes, $8,000. I pulled out my calculator. $300 times 72 months equals $223,200, plus the $146,000 in extras. Total, $369,200. Nearly $370,000 I'd invested in a family that was ashamed to have me around. The house felt different somehow, quieter, like a weight I hadn't realized I was carrying had just lifted off my shoulders. I picked up my phone and scrolled to my bank's customer service number. The automated system offered options in English and Spanish. How considerate of them. "Customer service, this is Marcus. How can I help you today? I need to cancel an automatic transfer that's been running for 6 years." "Certainly, sir. Can I get your account number and the details of the transfer?" I read off the numbers, listened to him type in the background. Professional, efficient. No judgment about why a 52-year-old man was canceling payments that had been supporting his daughter's mortgage. "I see the transfer you're referring to, Mr. Martinez. $3,100 monthly to Wells Fargo, account ending in 4847. That's been active since January 2019. You want to cancel this effective immediately?" "Effective immediately. Done. The transfer has been canceled. Is there anything else I can help you with today?" "No," I said. And for the first time in years, I meant it. "That's everything." I hung up and looked around my house that I'd been neglecting because every improvement dollar went to their place. The bathroom that needed updating, the living room that could use new furniture, the garage that needed better lighting for my workshop. For the first time in 6 years, next month's budget would be mine to spend. The sun was setting over the mountains, painting my kitchen orange and gold. I made myself a bourbon and water and sat on my back porch, listening to the evening sounds of my neighborhood. Normal sounds. Families finishing dinner, kids playing in yards, the distant hum of air conditioners working against the Arizona heat. Tomorrow was Friday. Saturday was Tommy's party. A party I wouldn't attend because my presence might make Harvard-educated people uncomfortable. I sipped my bourbon and watched the stars come out. For the first time in 6 years, I wasn't calculating how much money would disappear from my account in 2 weeks. The freedom tasted better than the whiskey. Saturday morning came with clear Arizona skies and the sound of my neighbor starting his weekend yard work. I made myself a real breakfast for the first time in months. Eggs, bacon, hash browns, the works. No need to pinch pennies for someone else's mortgage anymore. My phone started ringing at 10:30. Jessica's number flashed on the screen. I let it go to voicemail. It rang again at 10:45, then 11:15. By noon, I had 6 missed calls and 4 text messages. The last text said, "Dad, please call me back. Tommy keeps asking where Abuelo is." Tommy, the kid who used to help me sort screws in my garage workshop, who'd watch me fix his toys with wide eyes like I was performing magic. Now he was probably wondering why Abuelo suddenly wasn't good enough for his birthday party. I was reorganizing my workshop, something I'd been putting off for years, when someone started pounding on my front door. Heavy, urgent knocking that rattled the frame. I opened it to find Brad Thompson standing there in his golf shirt and pressed khakis, sweat beading on his forehead despite the morning cool. "Bob, we need to talk." He pushed past me into my living room without invitation. "Jessica told me about your conversation yesterday. Did she also tell you about the conversation where you two decided I wasn't suitable company for your parents?" Brad ran his hands through his thinning hair. "Look, that's not exactly how it went. My parents have certain expectations about social situations. They're very traditional people. Traditional meaning they don't like electricians? Jesus, Bob, it's not about your job. It's about comfort levels. They're academics, professors. They're not used to conversations about union work and job sites." I sat down in my recliner and gestured toward the couch. "Have a seat, Brad. Let's have one of those blue-collar conversations." He perched on the edge like he was afraid to relax. "We need you to reconsider about today. The party starts at 2, and Tommy's been asking about you since breakfast. Jessica's stressed, trying to explain why you're not coming. And what exactly is she telling him? That you had prior commitments." I leaned back and studied my son-in-law. Brad Thompson, 35 years old, Arizona State business degree, real estate sales when the market was good. Struggled when commissions dried up. Hadn't made a mortgage payment with his own money in 6 years. "Brad, do you know exactly how much money I've given you and Jessica since you bought that house?" His face went pale. "Bob, we've always appreciated your help." "Answer the question. How much?" "I don't know the exact figure. $369,200. I know the exact amount because I finally sat down and calculated it Thursday night. Monthly mortgage payments, down payment assistance, kitchen renovation, new roof, air conditioning, emergency repairs. $369,200. Brad's mouth opened, but no sound came out. "That's more than this house is worth. That's more than I've spent on myself in the last decade. And yesterday your wife told me I'm not educated enough to attend my grandson's birthday party. Bob, you have to understand my parents' perspective. What I understand is that you and Jessica have been cashing my checks while letting your parents treat me like the hired help. That's not fair." I walked to my desk and pulled out the manila folder. "Last Christmas, when your parents visited, your mother asked me to move my truck off the street because it was lowering the neighborhood's appearance. Remember that?" Brad shifted uncomfortably. "She was just concerned about the HOA. And the time your father suggested I use the back entrance when I came to fix your electrical panel because they were hosting a dinner party, he didn't mean anything by it. And now this. Now I'm suddenly not appropriate company for a family barbecue in the backyard I helped you afford." I opened the folder and spread out bank statements. "Brad, look at this. Every month for 6 years, $3,100 disappeared from my account and appeared in yours. You want to know what I was doing while you were living your dream lifestyle? I was eating lunch from home every day to save money." His face crumpled. "Bob, I never asked you to sacrifice like that." "No, you didn't ask. But you didn't say no either. You didn't tell your parents to show me basic respect. You didn't defend your wife's father when they made their comments about my truck, my work, my accent. What do you want me to do? They're my parents, and I'm Jessica's father and Tommy's grandfather. But apparently that counts for nothing in your family hierarchy." Brad leaned forward, desperation creeping into his voice. "Look, what if we compromise? What if you come to the party but just keep the conversation general? Maybe don't mention work stuff or speak Spanish around my parents." The audacity was breathtaking. "You want me to pretend to be someone else so your parents don't have to acknowledge that their son married beneath their social station?" "That's not what I'm saying. That's exactly what you're saying." I stood up and walked to the door. "Brad, I made a decision Thursday night. I'm done subsidizing a lifestyle that requires me to apologize for who I am." "What does that mean?" "It means the $3,100 monthly transfer? Canceled. The emergency fund for when your commissions fall short? Gone. The grandfather who bends over backward to help while getting treated like a second-class citizen? That guy retired." Brad's face went white. "You can't just stop helping us. The mortgage payment is due in 10 days. Then I suggest you figure out how to make it. Bob, be reasonable. We can work this out. Maybe my parents were insensitive, but..." "Insensitive?" I opened the front door. "Brad, your parents have spent 6 years treating me like the help. And you and Jessica have spent 6 years letting them. We never meant for you to feel that way." "How exactly did you think I'd feel? When your mother asks me to hide my truck? When your father sends me to the back door? When Jessica tells me to skip my grandson's party because my presence would embarrass the family? Brad stood up slowly. What about Tommy? He loves you, and I love him. Which is why I'm not going to spend the rest of his childhood teaching him it's acceptable to be ashamed of his Mexican grandfather. But without your help, without my help, you'll learn what every other adult in America learns, how to live within your means. After Brad left, I called my sister Rosa. You busy this afternoon? Just watching the Diamondbacks game. Why? Feel like taking your favorite brother out for Mexican food? I'm in the mood to celebrate. Celebrate what? My Independence Day. 3 hours later, Rosa and I were sitting at our favorite family restaurant, sharing a plate of carnitas and catching up. Real family time, the kind where nobody asks you to apologize for who you are. So let me understand this, Rosa said, adding more salsa to her taco. Jessica didn't want you at Tommy's party because Brad's parents think you're too Mexican? Too working class, too uneducated, too something that makes Harvard lawyers uncomfortable. And you've been paying their mortgage for how long? 6 years. $3,100 a month, plus extras when they needed help. Rosa whistled low. Bobby, what were you thinking? I was thinking I was helping my daughter build a good life for her family. And what are you thinking now? I took a bite of my taco and watched the other families around us. Normal people having normal Saturday lunches without worrying about whether their presence embarrassed anyone. I'm thinking maybe it's time I built a good life for myself. My phone buzzed with another text from Jessica. This one had a photo attached. Tommy in his birthday hat, holding a wrapped present, looking confused and sad. The message read, "He keeps asking where Abuelo is. The party isn't the same without you." I showed the photo to Rosa. Breaks your heart, doesn't it? It does. But Bobby, you can't teach that boy to respect you by letting his parents walk all over you. I know. I put the phone away without responding. But it still hurts. It's supposed to hurt. That's how you know you're doing the right thing. We finished our meal and Rosa drove me home. As we pulled into my driveway, I could see a car parked across the street. Jessica's Honda, with her sitting inside, engine off. You want me to stick around? Rosa asked. No, but thanks. This conversation needs to happen. Jessica got out as Rosa drove away. She'd been crying. I could tell from 50 feet. She walked toward me slowly like she was approaching something dangerous. Dad, can we talk? I unlocked my front door and we went inside. She sat at my kitchen table while I made coffee, the same spot where she'd told me I wasn't good enough for her in-laws just 24 hours ago. The party was awful, she said when I sat down. Tommy cried for an hour asking where you were. He kept going to the gate thinking you were coming late. What did you tell him? I told him you were sick. She wiped her eyes with a napkin. Dad, I messed up. I know I messed up badly. What exactly did you mess up, Jessica? I should never have asked you not to come. I should have stood up to Richard and Patricia when they made those comments about your truck, about using the back door. I should have defended you. Yes, you should have. She flinched at my tone. Is there any way we can fix this? Any way you can forgive me? I forgave you before you even left yesterday. But forgiveness doesn't mean pretending this didn't happen. I don't understand. I pulled out my bank statements and spread them across the table. For 6 years, I've been sending you and Brad $3,100 every month. Yesterday, I canceled that transfer. Her face went white. Dad, you can't do that. We're depending on that money. The mortgage payment is due next Friday. Then you better figure out how to make it. But we don't have $3,100 extra lying around. Brad's sales have been slow, and with my hospital hours cut back. Jessica, how do you think other adults manage their mortgage payments? That's different. We bought the house expecting your help to continue. You bought a house you couldn't afford and assumed I'd pay for it forever? She was quiet for a long moment. We never thought of it that way. How did you think of it? As family helping family. As you wanting us to have nice things, to live in a good neighborhood for Tommy. I leaned back in my chair. Did you ever ask yourself why I never took vacations, why I've been driving the same truck for 8 years, why I eat lunch from home instead of going out with my crew? No. Because every spare dollar went to your lifestyle, your need to impress Brad's parents with a life you couldn't afford on your own. Jessica started crying again. I never meant for you to sacrifice so much, but you never told me to stop either. You never said, Dad, this is too much. You just kept taking the money while letting Brad's family treat me like hired help. What do you want me to do? I can't change what happened." I stood up and walked to my living room window. Across the street, my neighbor was teaching his son to change a tire. Father and son working together, no shame involved. "Jessica, if your mother was alive, what would she think about you asking me to skip Tommy's birthday because I might embarrass you?" "Dad, please don't bring Mom into this." Maria worked for families like the Thompsons her whole life. You know what she used to tell me? The kindest people were usually the ones who'd worked for what they had. The cruelest ones were those who'd inherited everything. I know, but your mother would be ashamed of who you've become. The words hung in the air like smoke from a house fire. Harsh but necessary. "Dad, please, tell me how to fix this." I turned around and looked at my daughter, really looked at her. Somewhere along the way, she'd traded her dignity for a mortgage payment in North Scottsdale. "You want to fix this? Here's how. You and Brad figure out how to pay your own bills. You tell his parents that if they want to be part of this family, they need to treat all members with respect. And you teach Tommy to be proud of his Mexican grandfather, not ashamed of him. What if we can't make the mortgage payment? Then you sell the house and buy something you can afford. But we love that house. I'm sure you do. I helped you find it, remember? I co-signed the loan when Brad's credit wasn't good enough." My phone started ringing. Jessica glanced at it. "It's Brad. Answer it. Put it on speaker." She hesitated, then answered. "Brad? Jess, we need to talk. My parents just got a very interesting phone call." Brad's voice came through the phone speaker, tight with something between panic and anger. "Jess, my dad just got off the phone with someone named Rosa Martinez. She told him everything about Bob, the money, all of it." Jessica looked at me with wide eyes. I shrugged. Rosa had always been a woman of action. "What do you mean everything?" Jessica asked. "The monthly payments, the down payment, 6 years of financial support." She also told them about the comments they made about Bob's truck, about him using the back door, about not wanting him to speak Spanish around Tommy. I couldn't help but smile. My sister knew how to hit where it hurt. "Oh God," Jessica whispered. "It gets worse. My father is furious. Not at Bob, at us. He says the whole situation is shameful, that he didn't raise me to take money from a man and then exclude him from family events." Through the phone, I could hear Brad's mother saying something in the background, her voice sharp with what sounded like genuine distress. "What's your mother saying?" Jessica asked. "She's mortified. She says she had no idea we were taking money from Bob while treating him that way. She wants to apologize to him personally." I took the phone from Jessica. "Brad, this is Bob." "Bob, I'm so sorry. We had no idea you'd been supporting us financially all these years while they were being inappropriate." "You had no idea?" My voice stayed level. "You had no idea where that $300 appeared in your account every month? I mean, we knew you were helping, but not to that extent. And we certainly didn't connect it to my parents' behavior toward you. Brad, let me talk to your father." There was shuffling, muffled conversation. Then a different voice came on the line. Richard Thompson, Harvard Law graduate, speaking in the careful tone of a man who just realized he'd made a serious error in judgment. "Mr. Martinez, this is Richard Thompson. I owe you a profound apology. Go on. I had no idea that you'd been financially supporting my son and daughter-in-law to such an extent. Had I known, my behavior toward you would have been entirely different. So you only treat people with respect when you know they're paying your bills?" There was a long pause. "That's not what I meant, but I understand why you'd interpret it that way. My wife and I were wrong to make assumptions about your background and education. We were wrong to ask you to move your truck, to suggest you use a different entrance. We were wrong about a lot of things. And now that you know I've been subsidizing your son's lifestyle for 6 years, suddenly I'm worthy of respect? Mr. Martinez, you're right to be angry. We behaved poorly, and there's no excuse for it." I looked at Jessica, who was staring at the phone with a mixture of hope and terror. "Mr. Thompson, I appreciate the apology, but the damage is done. I'm not interested in respect that only comes after someone discovers I have money. What can we do to make this right? You can start by understanding that your son and daughter-in-law are about to learn what it means to live within their means. The financial support stops now." Jessica grabbed my arm. "Dad, please, we can work this out." I gently moved her hand away. Mr. Thompson, you still there? I'm here. Your son owes $3,100 next Friday for his mortgage payment. That's his problem to solve now, not mine. Bob, Brad's voice came back on the line. Surely we can work out some kind of arrangement. My parents understand the situation now. They want to make amends. Brad, the arrangement is simple. You figure out how to pay your own bills. You treat me with respect because I'm your wife's father and Tommy's grandfather, not because of what I can do for you financially. And you teach my grandson to be proud of who he is, including the Mexican side of his family. But without the mortgage help, you'll do what millions of Americans do every day. You'll either find a way to afford where you live, or you'll find somewhere you can afford. Jessica was crying quietly now. Dad, what about Tommy? What about our family? I softened my voice. Jessica, I love you and I love Tommy, but I won't be taken advantage of anymore. If you want a relationship with me, it has to be built on respect, not financial dependency. What does that look like? It looks like family dinners where I don't have to hide who I am. It looks like Tommy calling me abuelo without being corrected. It looks like birthday parties where I'm welcome because I'm family, not excluded because I might embarrass you. Richard Thompson's voice came back on the line. Mr. Martinez, would you be willing to meet with Patricia and me? We'd like to apologize in person and discuss how we can move forward as a family. Mr. Thompson, I appreciate the offer, but I think I'll pass. I've spent 6 years trying to earn respect from your family. I'm done with that project. I understand. I hung up and looked at Jessica. Your choice now is simple. You can keep trying to be someone you're not to impress people who don't really respect you. Or you can remember who raised you and start acting like it. What if we lose the house? Then you'll find an apartment you can afford and start over. Your mother and I did it when we were young. Plenty of good people live in apartments. Jessica was quiet for several minutes thinking. Finally, she looked up at me. Dad, I want to try again. I want to do this right. What does that look like? It looks like Brad and me figuring out our finances without your help. It looks like Tommy knowing his abuelo loves him and is proud of our heritage. And it looks like me standing up to anyone who thinks we should be ashamed of our family. I nodded. That's a start. Will you give us another chance? Not financially, just as family? Jessica, you'll always be my daughter, but the bank of Dad is permanently closed. She managed a small smile. Fair enough. 6 months later, Jessica and Brad sold the North Scottsdale house and bought a smaller place in Tempe they could afford on their own. Tommy started taking Spanish lessons with me every Saturday morning. Brad got a second job and stopped expecting handouts. As for the Thompson family, they learned to keep their opinions about appropriate company to themselves. And me? I bought a new truck, took Rosa on a cruise to Mexico, and started living like a man who finally remembered his own worth. Sometimes the best revenge is just refusing to apologize for who you are.